my great pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, Colombo, High Commission of India, to this online documentary lecture. The topic of this online documentary lecture is the role of Lord Krishna in Mahabharatha. It is one of the events of India at 75. It marks the 75th anniversary of Indian independence. Before I move into this topic, it is my earnest desire to point out about the two major epics of India. One is Ramayana and other one is Mahabharata. Both these epics are still dominating the whole world. Both these epics preach the concepts of karma, dharma and adharma. But the Ramayana epic is connected to India and Sri Lanka. But the Mahabharata epic is confined within the territorial limits of India alone. But both these epics preach the concepts of karma, dharma and adharma. The karma doctrine means what he had done in our previous birth, which continuously dominates our present birth without our knowledge. That is generally called fate. The good qualities are confined within the concept of dharma doctrine, and adharma doctrine means all the qualities of evil and ill qualities. Those qualities are just opposite to the dharma qualities. And further, all these two epics emphasize the fact how the dharma quality has its trim over the adharma quality. That means dharma is always victorious over the adharma. Both these epics emphasize the qualities of dharma qualities in life. According to Hindu mythology, Lord Krishna had taken 9 avatars. That means 9 incarnations to protect the world from evil and to preserve the doctrine of dharma in the world. The first incarnation was in the form of fish, that is called Matsya Avatar. The second incarnation was in the form of tortoise, which is known as Kurma Avatar. The third incarnation was in the form of boar, which is called Varaha Avatar. The fourth incarnation of Lord Vishnu was in the form of Narasimha, the Lion Man. The fifth avatar of Lord Vishnu was in the form of Vamana Avatar. That was 3 feet high Brahmin priest who measured 3 lokas by raising his leg up. The sixth incarnation of Lord Vishnu was Parasurama Avatar. The seventh incarnation of Lord Vishnu was Balarama Avatar. Eighth incarnation of Lord Vishnu was Rama Avatar. And the ninth incarnation of Lord Vishnu was Lord Krishna. And it is stated that Lord Vishnu has to take one more avatar at the end of Kali in the form of Kalki avatar. In the eighth avatar of Lord Vishnu, in the form of Rama avatar, had taken in the Ramayana epic. Similarly, the ninth avatar of Lord Vishnu was taken to protect the world in the Mahabharata epic. The life of Lord Krishna could be divided into three segments or into three parts. The first part of Lord Krishna could be identified from his childhood, from his birth till the end of his uncle Hamsa's death. The second part of his life could be coordinated with his family life, and the third part of Lord Krishna's life could be identified with his role as a friend, as a guide, and as a philosopher. The third part of Lord Krishna's life could be identified as a philosopher, as a friend, and as a guide. That could be specially seen in the Mahabharata epic. The role of Lord Krishna in Mahabharata appears with the Swayamvar of Princess Draupadi. When the Princess Draupadi of Panchal, when she reached the age, the father of Princess Draupadi has decided to have a Swayamvar for her. Then he invited all the kings and princes for the Swayamvar. When all of them were assembled at the Swayamvar hall, a particular condition was laid down by the Princess Draupadi's family and requested those who break that particular challenge, only Draupadi would be given. That was announced by Draupadi's brother. When all the kings and princes assembled at the Swayamvar hall of Princess Draupadi, the brother of Draupadi had announced the conditions or the challenge prescribed to win the hands of Princess Draupadi. Then all the royals, including the kings and princes, tried to win that challenge or tried to break that challenge to win the hands of Draupadi. Everybody failed. Lord Krishna appeared in that Swayamvar hall. He didn't play any role there. He went and impatiently watched all the incidents what were taking place at the Swayamvar hall. When all the attempts were failed by the kings and the princess, one young Brahmin boy came out of the audience and he break the challenge and won the hands of Draupadi. Draupadi was a very beautiful princess at that time. It earned the wrath and anger among the royals who assembled at the Swayamvar hall. Actually, the young Brahmin boy was the Prince Arjuna of Panchapandavas. The Panchapandavas at that moment were sent for an exile in a forest by a conspiracy of King Duryodhana. And during that time, they were not permitted to show their identity. That's why Prince Arjuna appeared in the Swayamvar hall by disguising himself as a Brahmin. Ultimately, Prince Arjuna won the hands of Draupadi and took her to their cottage to show their mother Kunti Devi. At the entrance of the cottage, she called the mother and told that he had brought the good present to her. But Kunti Devi asked Arjuna to share that present with all of his brothers. That was the cause Kunti Devi is to fulfill Kunti Devi's desire. Draupadi was married all the 5 brothers of Panchapandavas, including Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula and Sahantika. After the exile period, the Pandavas went back to the country and they requested Duryodhana to give their part. Even the king Dhritarashtra also advised Duryodhana to give their part. But Duryodhana did not want to give anything to them. But due to the request made by his father, he decided to give a portion of land. At last, Duryodhana decided to give a particular portion of land to them. But that portion was called Kandava Pradesh. That means that soil, infertile soil, without water resources, without inhabitant, and full of rocks and full of stones. That was a neglected part of land. Only Duryodhana gave that part to Pandavas. Pandavas, with the aid of Lord Krishna, turned that land into a fertile soil with full of water resources and made the land a very beautiful land for the human inhabitation. And they built a beautiful palace with the aid of Lord Krishna, Indra, and divine architect Vishwakarma. Excellent palace was built, and that Pradesh was called Indra Pradesh, and that Pradesh was called Indra Pradesh. That is the present Delhi. It is said that is the present Delhi. One day, Narada came to that palace, and he was so surprised to see the beauty of that palace and the area and the land, everything. He went back and told Duryodhana about that beautiful palace, and he said, and he was very much impressed. And he went and told Duryodhana that he had been to so many palaces of different gods, including the palace of Yama, the palace of Indra, but he had not seen such a beautiful palace like this earlier. It caused the very bad ill feeling in the heart of Duryodhana. At the time, Yudhishthira was the king of Indraprastha and Princess Draupadi became the queen of Indraprastha. And Duryodhana feels very bad about it because so many inhabitants of his kingdom, Hastinapura, migrated to Indraprastha. Because of that, he was very much angry over it, and he planned to do some sort of conspiracy to get that land back to him. Then he decided and invited the Pandava to his palace for a dice game. That is a gambling dice game. Innocently, without the knowledge, Yudhishthira, the eldest of Pandava, agreed for that game. Unfortunately, he lost one by one in that dice game. Due to the well-planned conspiracy by Duryodhana to capture the Indraprastha from Yudhishthira, unfortunately and innocently, Yudhishthira lost his kingdom. He lost one by one. He lost his kingdom, he lost his possessions, he lost his brothers, and ultimately he lost his wife, Queen Draupadi. But ill-minded Duryodhana was not happy over it. The ill-minded Duryodhana was not happy over after Yudhishthira had lost everything. He planned for another episode by instructing his brother Duryodhana to disrobe the garments of Queen Draupadi. The desperate queen prayed at the moment Lord Krishna internally. The desperate queen at that moment prayed the help of Lord Krishna internally. Lord Krishna was not in that assembly at that moment, but the Queen Draupadi internally she prayed the God. Fortunately, a divine power through a window came and it protected the Queen Draupadi, and her garments started growing endlessly. Duryodhana, who was disrobing garments, was started growing endlessly. The garments which he was disrobing again and again started growing endlessly. It was a miracle and it was a shock for the entire people who were assembled at the Hastinapura court. But it started growing. Duryodhana was fainted many of times while he was disrobing the garments of Queen Draupadi. It irritated the minds of all, but every incident took place in front of Hastinapura court, in front of Duryodhana's father, Dhritarashtra, Bhishma, Gangaputra, and Dronacharya, who was the common guru for Pandavas and Kauravas at the chamber. By citing the disrobing incident of Draupadi, Bhima, one of the brothers of Panchapandava, was totally annoyed. But all the Panchapandavas controlled themselves because of their deep devotion to the elder brother Yudhishthira. But Bhima took a pledge by expressing that in the war he will definitely kill Duryodhana, and from his chest he will take the blood and drink. Similarly, Draupadi also took a vow by deranging her hair and expressing that in the war she would take the blood from the thigh of Duryodhana and put it on her hair. Then that much of hurting took place in the hearts of Pandavas and Queen Draupadi. Duryodhana had prescribed a 12 years exile for them in the forest, and one more year was added and asked them to live in the country without showing their identity. But altogether 13 years exile was announced and prescribed by Duryodhana for Panchapandavas. The Panchapandavas went to the forest in a very desperate condition by losing everything, whatever they had in Indraprastha and whatever they had in their hands. Very desperate condition, they were forced to live in the forest. When this incident came to know in the ears of Lord Krishna, he immediately came from Dwaraka along with his Yadav army, and he wanted to help them. And the Yadav army chief, he wanted to crush the Kauravas immediately, but everything was suppressed by Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira's immeasurable patience and immeasurable tolerance and endurance caused the wrath and anger among his own brothers Panchapandavas, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula and Sahadeva, including Queen Draupadi. But Bhima, he again and again expressed Yudhishthira because they suffered a lot at the hands of Duryodhana, and now the end they had to go and fight with him. But Yudhishthira patiently, he did not want to go for anything. He also denied the help extended by Lord Krishna, and he said he wanted to fulfill his vow till the end. And after they completed the period of 13 years exile in the forest as well as in the country, they went back to their country. After the 12 years forest exile and 1 year period of country exile, after the total period of 13 years exile, Pandavas returned back to the country and required Duryodhana to return back to their portion. But Duryodhana did not want to spare a single inch with Pandavas. And Pandavas first sent a Brahmin messenger for them. Duryodhana said, even a pinch of needle won't be given, because he wanted a war and he had an impression nobody would go for Pandava's help because they were not in power. And he said he did not want to give even a single inch of land to them. And ultimately, Lord Krishna was sent by Pandavas as a messenger to Duryodhana, but he flatly refused that request to Lord Krishna. And ultimately, the war was the only source for Pandavas to get their land. And the war was declared. Once the war was declared, Duryodhana went to Lord Krishna to meet and get his assistance. Meanwhile, Arjuna also wanted to go and get the assistance from Lord Krishna. But Duryodhana went early. At the time, Lord Krishna was sleepy, and he went there with full of pride. But Arjuna went. At the time also Lord Krishna was sleepy. He saw Duryodhana was waiting for Lord Krishna at his head side. Arjuna went with full of humbleness, and he stayed at the feet of Lord Krishna. Both of them were waiting for Lord Krishna to wake up. But Lord Krishna, when he woke up, he saw Arjuna first, and he gave his assurance to Arjuna that he would give his support in the war for Arjuna. It actually annoyed the Duryodhana. He said he came to meet him first and he had to give his full support to him only. But Lord Krishna explained, Arjuna seated at his feet, and when he woke up, he saw Arjuna first. And he decided to give his support to Arjuna. Then Duryodhana, he asked to give the Yadav army support to him. Lord Krishna had given that support to him. Arjuna felt that for him, Lord Krishna's assistance is enough. Duryodhana felt that Arjuna was a fool because he only expected the assistance of Lord Krishna only. But he wanted and he got the full battle force of Yadav from Lord Krishna. So he felt Arjuna was a fool and he was succeeded in his mission. Lord Krishna was the charioteer for Arjuna for the Kurukshetra war, and he drove his chariot to the battlefield. When he entered the battlefield, Arjuna asked Lord Krishna to take the chariot in the middle of the battleground because he wanted to have a thorough picture of the battleground, as well as he wanted to have the direct view of the enemy forces. When he saw all of his blood cousins, Kauravas were there, and Bhishma, the Ganga Putra, was there, who was the commander-in-chief for Kauravas, and Guru Dronacharya, who was the common guru for Pandavas and Kauravas, to teach the art of archery. All of them were seen in the opposite side. Arjuna got a dilemma and nervous, and he asked, was this war needed? Was this war needed to kill all these to gain their power and land? He couldn't bear that tension. He became very nervous and he got a dilemma. At the time, he seeked Lord Krishna's advice and guidance. He asked Lord Krishna, was this war needed? And he explained his state of mind to him. Lord Krishna encouraged him to face the situation courageously because it was his duty, and to make Arjuna, he again and again explained the philosophy of life, the philosophy of moral concepts, and philosophy of life and philosophy of death. Arjuna again and again asked numerous questions from Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna explained everything patiently because he wanted to give a clear picture to Arjuna. Whatever the teaching Lord Krishna had given Arjuna at the battlefield which became Bhagavad Gita later. Today, Bhagavad Gita consists 1.8 million words and 700 verses, divided into 18 chapters. Kurukshetra war of Mahabharata took place for 18 days, and the chapters in Bhagavad Gita also 18 in number. So we have to know Bhagavad Gita is today translated into hundreds of languages, and it became a universal text for all the religions in the world, because it preaches only the moral values and life philosophy and all the truth in life only. So it is one of the important literature in the world, followed by millions and millions of population all around the world. Through Bhagavad Gita, we can see the conversation took place at the battlefield of Kurukshetra between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. It gives a meaningful guidance for all of us. It is stated that Bhagavad Gita was preached to Arjuna under a banyan tree. Bhagavad Gita was preached to Arjuna under a banyan tree. Still we can see that tree. Many of the tourists visit that place and worship, and they collect the dry leaves of the banyan leaves and they keep it at their home and worship. This is the banyan leaf which I collected from that tree a few years back. We keep it at our shrine room and we worship for wisdom, knowledge, courage and all the virtues of life. We all worship that particular leaf at our shrine room. Still we can see Mahabharatha trip in India in several places, especially the Kurukshetra war we can see at Kurukshetra in Haryana state. Today the lecture is about the role of Lord Krishna in Mahabharata, and at the end it is a must for me to explain that when Kunti Devi was young, one day Kunti Devi was Pandava's mother. When Kunti Devi was young, one day she pronounced a particular mantra, but suddenly Lord Sun God appeared in front of her and gave a birth of a son. The unmarried Kunti Devi was very much puzzled and she wanted to send the child, and she took a casket and put the child and let it in a river. That particular river is still called Karnan. The son was Karnan. he was collected by a charioteer of Kauravas, and he was the one brought up that child under the name of Karnan. Actually, Karnan was the eldest among all the Pandavas: Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula and Sahadeva. Before their birth, by a mantra, Kunti Devi got a son that was Karnan. Later, he went to Kaurava's side because he was brought up by the charioteer of Kauravas. That's why he served with Duryodhana's side and faced the end at the Kurukshetra war. This was disclosed by Lord Krishna to Kunti Devi and Karna at the end of Mahabharatha. So the role of Lord Krishna would be considered for disclosing this truth to Kunti Devi and Karna was also being considered as an important part in this lecture. At the end of this lecture, it is my duty to explain what Mahabharata explains us. Actually, Mahabharata explains us through two sets of cousins. One set of cousins is Pancha Pandavas and other set of cousins is Kauravas. One set of cousins represents the quality of Dharma and the other set of cousins represents the quality of Adharma. Ultimately, always throughout the Mahabharata, there was a conflict between the Dharma and Adharma, between two sets of cousins. One set of cousins represents the qualities of Dharma and other set of cousins represents the qualities of Adharma. And ultimately, there was a clash between the Dharma and Adharma, and Dharma's strength over Adharma was well explained in Mahabharata.